tuck my mic in like this. Paul Balisky. Can you tell me your full name?
Hi, my full name is Emon Paul Balisky. Now, sometimes my wife puts a D in front of the Emon when I'm not acting proper. So,
How often does that happen?
oh, maybe every decade.
Every decade. Well, that's not too bad then. Where were you born?
I was born on the Emerson Trail on the edge of Bear Lake back in 1937.
Wow. So you grew up here?
I grew up here, went to high school right here in Grande Prairie.
Okay.
And then after high school, I went to PRBI for 3 years, and that sent me off in a wonderful trajectory.
Okay. How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have 3 sisters older than me, and I'm one of 7 sons.
Okay.
I have 2 younger brothers.
Okay. 10 in total.
10 in total.
Okay. And what was school like for you?
Depends which school you ask. I enjoyed elementary school in a little country school, grades 1 through 9 on the edge of Bear Lake.
Yeah.
High school here. And I majored in all the sports that were offered: curling, track and field, basketball, which is starting, and some other sports. I didn't do well academically, though, in Grande Prairie High School.
Oh, no?
I was expecting to go to University of Alberta, and they said your grades are not good enough.
Oh, wow.
So that set me back, as it were, on another trajectory, which was a good one.
And that was?
Then, after PRBI, I went to Wheaton College,
Okay.
where I met my beautiful wife, Lila,
Okay.
and then graduate school after that.
Okay. What were your parents like growing up?
Mother and Dad were I think, were just wonderful parents. They gave us freedom. They gave us many friends. Mother and Dad were peacemakers in the community, especially among the Ukrainian people. Mm-hmm. They had many friends that way, and Dad sort of became a lay preacher among the Ukrainian communities in Blueberry Mountain. There were clusters of Ukrainians, and Dan and I became the special singers in Ukrainian, if you can believe it.
So were your parents from the Ukraine?
My father was born in Ukraine. My mother was born in North Dakota from Ukrainian parents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And they wound up here?
And Dad came up here, homesteaded in 1912.
Okay, and that homestead is still in the family, right?
Still in the 3rd generation now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. When did you become a Christian?
I was I struggled with my mother's heavy hand on me, and I needed to be saved.
Okay.
When I was 9 or 10 years old, at Bear Lake Camp, at a Sunday evening service, I walked the Sawdust Trail and became a believer. And Mom and Dad knew I had changed my behavior.
Okay.
I was a changed person.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the impetus didn't come from your parents, it kind of came on your own?
It came on my own, but from the influence of that Bear Lake Camp.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I've told your, or your brother had told me of your parents. He said that your mother had always encouraged you guys and always taught you to put God first. Mm-hmm. Would you say that was your experience as well?
Oh, yes, and prayers, devotions. We would often read the Daily Light, and Dad would always pray in Ukrainian, which we could understand. We had probably vocabulary, maybe 500 words in Ukrainian.
Okay.
But at this date, I have nearly forgotten all those words except a few words like kucha, which we're going to have.
Oh, you are, yeah. Like kucha is wheat, right? It's sweet wheat
with poppy seeds and honey.
Yeah, it's very good. Kucha, I used to call it.
You enjoyed it too?
Well, my grandparents are Ukrainian descent as well, so I'm somewhat familiar with kucha. We call it, am I saying that right? Kucha?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's a good, sweet little dish. So later in life, you did become a missionary. What was your journey there? Like, how did you become, what you said, Wheaton College?
Yeah, Wheaton College. Then I went to theological seminary. That was Fuller Theological Seminary in Pasadena.
Yeah.
And because my older siblings had become missionaries with the Sudan Interior Mission, now known as SIM,
Yeah.
and I thought I had the gifts, cross-cultural gifts of becoming a missionary.
Yeah.
So that's the route I took.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Like in your education journey, so it went Wheaton, then Fuller. Fuller's in California, right?
Yes, and two degrees. After our first 4 years in Ethiopia, I went back to Fuller for another degree.
Okay.
And then while in Ethiopia, we were teaching at the BA level, and our graduates, bright Ethiopians, wanted to go on in their education, and when they would leave for America or Canada or to Europe to get another degree, they wouldn't come back because Ethiopia at that time was under communism.
Okay.
So we decided as a mission that we needed to open a graduate school of theology in Ethiopia.
Yeah.
So I was among 4 other colleagues selected to get a doctorate.
Okay.
So I went to University of Aberdeen for that.
Nice. And so you did get a PhD to be able to start that school.
I got a PhD to be able to launch that school with others.
Okay, what was your PhD on?
It was on...
I'm going to pass you your book here.
Sure.
That way I'll pass you both your books. And if you just don't mind giving me a little bit of a rundown on what they are.
Now, because I'd worked with the Waleta people group in their evangelism, I thought their story has not been written up.
Okay.
So I decided to write the story of nearly 300 evangelists from this one people group who spread out in southern Ethiopia for sharing the good news. And I interviewed these, and that was a story in itself of how I was able to plant tape recorders, gave tape recorders to 4 different Ethiopians, friends of mine, and they got these stories, and then to have someone translate that material, because I don't know the Waleta language, I had this one Ethiopian translate these tapes that I had into English, and that was a source of my doctorate.
Wow.
So here it is.
Nice.
And then later on, I was asked to do a presentation on Thomas Lambie. This was at a international forum, and 2 of my colleagues from SIM International, they said, Paul, this really needs to be written up in a book.
And Thomas Lambie was the founder, right?
He was the founder of various ministries of SIM, yes.
Okay.
So I went ahead and did this during my time here in Grande Prairie,
Yeah.
after retiring from Ethiopia.
Okay.
So this has become a more popular book than my doctorate, because this is a bit heavy.
Yeah.
But this is easy reading.
And an adventure.
Yeah,
Right.
people enjoy reading good missionary story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What was I going to ask? Just for some scope, how big is the mission that you are a part of now today? How big is it? Like how many people does it?
Well, Scott, sometimes we lose track, but SIM began in Nigeria, then came to Ethiopia, and right now, I would say that there are probably, would you say 2,000 missionaries with SIM, Lila?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, probably, and we're working in more countries than I even know about, but we're in India, China, several countries in Europe,
Wow.
in Africa, maybe a dozen countries. So we, as a mission, we have really spread to many, many countries. And now Ethiopians that we have trained, they are going out as missionaries to Pakistan, China, Arab countries, and they have become part of the SIM organization.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. So tell me about going to Ethiopia. Like, how did you wind up there?
Well, it was a part of this is really Lila's story. Number one, I had 3 siblings in Nigeria already, and we thought that's enough. Balisky's there. and Lila's roots were in Kenya. Roots go back 2 generations before her. And then we said, let's do a new country. And then there was another factor that if we go to a hot country, Lila had trouble with swollen feet. Don't know why. Anyhow, so we decided let's go to Ethiopia. It's a wide open country.
And it's not so hot.
It's not so hot. High elevation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In your 40 years there, can you tell me like what was your role or the various roles that you held, the positions? What was the nature of the work that you did?
The first, because we were trained theologically, we were placed in places where we're training Ethiopians at the grassroots level in Bible schools and teaching in Amharic, then diploma schools. Then we were involved in this Bachelor of Theology school, then graduate school. So we had roles in these various educational institutes, which was a very good experience. And eventually, when you're an older missionary, getting a few gray hairs, losing a few, they make you the director of the mission. So
that's how that works, eh?
That's how it works.
Yeah.
So there were about 300 missionaries within Ethiopia, and I was made the director, and I served for 4 years in that position.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were there any struggles in that position, or highlights? What were some big takeaways?
Any people group, any organization will inevitably have personnel problems.
Yeah.
It's inevitable. We were quite an international group. New Zealand, Australia, Germans from Germany, U.S., Canada, and there were interpersonal problems. I had a good staff working with me, and some of the problems we were able to solve, but others, I left the office and there were 2 couples we did not get them together. So I felt a bit of a failure there.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Okay.
Yeah.
When you and Lila were over in Ethiopia, you did start a family over there, right? How many children do you have?
We have 3 sons. One was born here in the Grande Prairie Hospital, and then we had 2 children while we were in Ethiopia. And the wonderful boys, skilled, healthy, and doing well in various occupations. Our oldest did his master's degree at UBC in forestry, and right now he's the CEO of a large sawmill owned by 9 indigenous tribal units in Meadow Lake, Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
And he's doing well. And our second son is in Vancouver, heading up a ministry to refugees and to displaced people that pour into Vancouver without any kind of identification. They throw away their passport and say we're derelict. So this ministry has been going on for probably 25 years now. Our youngest son decided to become an American and took the path of becoming a military person and is now a colonel, and in Washington, D.C. right now with a portfolio of advising on the East Africa front.
Okay.
Right now.
Wow.
So
That's
we're
awesome.
proud of our sons.
That's awesome. What was fatherhood like, being a missionary? Was it good?
Well, we sent our boys off to boarding school. We kept them till they were nearly 7 years old, kept them at home. We didn't provide, there wasn't really an opportunity of homeschooling them at that stage in mission history. I think it was harder for Lila than for me. I thought our boys were quite independent, but I think her older son did struggle being away from home. The younger 2 sons because their older brother was already in school. They didn't have the struggle that Alan had. But I think he's worked that out. And for their high school, they went off to Nairobi and went to the same school, Rift Valley Academy, where Lila graduated from in Kenya.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. So what are some of the, like 40 years over in Ethiopia, raising a family over there, what are some of the bigger lessons that you've learned in life? Maybe out of your struggles or something of that nature?
I would say number one was to see the Holy Spirit work in the lives of dozens and hundreds of people in their conversion experience and becoming part of the family of God.
Yeah.
That has been a very rewarding experience. Struggles that I think I had was initially with the language. Before we attended language school, we were 3 months assigned to a place in southern Ethiopia that had basic carpentry work, other kinds of work to be done. And I was frustrated because the people working with me, the young men, didn't know English and I didn't know their language. So we'd have to use sign language, getting them to bring me a hammer, or do this and do that. So this motivated me and Lila to really get the language well.
Okay.
And that we did. So that was a frustration at the beginning. I don't think that I was frustrated or challenged by the climate. We were in a high elevation, above 6,000 feet elevation, right near the equator, but I did not suffer from the heat as those did in Nigeria, SIMers. Another frustration, of course, as I mentioned before, would be interpersonal problems. On a local station, there may be 5 or 6 of us doing, medical work, teaching in the elementary school or in the Bible school. And when you work together with various cultures and not understanding them, one makes mistakes, they make mistakes, and sometimes there's a bit of a friction that sets up.
Okay.
But I don't think we had any tensions with the goal of our organization. We believed in what SIM was doing, and we worked along to fulfill the mandate of the mission.
Nice.
Which was very fulfilling.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have any regrets in life or anything that you would have done differently?
I really, as I think about it, regrets. I think every goal I set for myself, I was able to fulfill it. The only regret I have right now, I'm writing another book, and because I wasn't answering our Christmas mail, I was using it as a source document, one of Lila's diaries, and she took that diary away from me and hid it, and I don't have it right now to continue my work. So that's a regret.
That's a regret.
So
I think that's pretty good in a lifetime. If that's the only major regret, that's not too bad.
But it's quite major for me right now because I want to finish this book.
Right, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any advice for young people? Maybe people that are just charting their course in life, or the generations
Scott,
behind you?
Young people today have so many opportunities, and my advice to them would be get focused. Don't spend too much time on your iPhone or your computer. Open your eyes to what's going on around you, and set goals for yourself and fulfill them. Don't get sidetracked onto non-issues that really don't count in life. Be a whole person and make friends with your colleagues in church or in your high school or your university, college. Make good friends that will inspire you and encourage you along in your vocation and in your Christian life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Thoughts on Canada? What do you think of our country?
Well, I'm proud to be a Canadian. I'm trusting that our provincial government will stay on course and not break away. I want to be part of all of Canada, not have Alberta take off and be a lone province in Canada. I think we have good leadership. I'm glad to be here in Alberta and part of Canada.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good country.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on life at all? Anything that you'd say to people? Anything that's pressing on your heart?
Yeah, those that want to listen to me, I think that I would say get involved in a local church, make your contribution, be generous with your funds, with your finances, giving to credible agencies that are overseas or here in a local area. Make friends with new citizens of Grande Prairie.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of new people. We're economically very, very strong, and people come to Grande Prairie because of work. But reach out, make friends with these newcomers here, and get them involved with you in a local church. Yeah.
Awesome. One thing I'd like to hear from you is, and this came when I talked with your brother Dan, he had told me just that your mother specifically had always encouraged you and always taught you to put God first. And I asked him a question about how he was raised, because I respected the Balisky brothers a lot. I admire the way that they put their lives together. What advice would you give to parents in how they're raising their children to raise good kids?
Yeah. Well, Scott, of course, we want to say our own story about how we raised our boys, which is quite different to people right here locally in Canada. But I would give 3 advice. Number 1, give your children freedom, encourage their gifts, because every child is born with certain gifts, abilities. Secondly, give them an opportunity to follow where they're moving. If they want to go to university, encourage them in that and support them.
Yeah.
And then thirdly, and maybe the first one would be nurture their spiritual lives. Some of this you can do yourself, but there are Christian agencies like good camps, local church, even Bible college for 1 or 2 years. So give them all the opportunity that you can give them. Don't give them too much money. Let them get a part-time job when they're in high school, and let them know the value of money. Mm-hmm. Some kids have too much, and we live on a corner here where young bucks buy these pickups and show off to the young girls that they can really spin their wheels around the corner here and do donuts.
Right.
So don't give them too much money. Let them work and make their own money to buy these kind of tools and toys.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me tell my story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. That's our hub.